What a weekend. Greetings, I am Shawn Redman, aka the cheesily named Darth Shawn. And The Force Awakens did a lot of business this weekend. Right now with an estimated $238 million, although there are some reporting say it could go as high as $247 million in one weekend. That's incredible. Beyond incredible. That's ridiculous on pretty much all levels. Surely someday the record will be beaten because all records can be beaten. But to beat the record potentially by almost $40 million at that high, that's just an incredible number. Well done, JJ and crew. And they got the biggest money opener, and it's definitely going to be moving towards Avatar and the all-time box office record. With that being said, here we're going to talk about what else? The Force Awakens, but this time with spoilers. If you've watched my non-spoiler review, if you haven't, it'll be in the descriptions below. But if you have, you've noticed that I was very vague. And that's this movie. It is very hard to talk about this movie without spoiling a lot of plot points. And I think it's great how many reviewers have spent a lot of time going over the top to not spoil, because so many of these things are great just to experience. Even if you maybe had an idea or you were right about something, I was right about a lot of things. I was also wrong about a lot of things. But you being able to witness it in the theater was worth it. And there were just some great things to just see. And so staying away from spoilers was really smart, I found. And now being able to marinate and think on these things for quite a while. And now getting ready for maybe second and third viewings, I feel like I can stand back and really talk about The Force Awakens and have a really, really true opinion going through it. When I first came out of it, there was kind of a little bit of mixed feeling. I enjoyed it quite a bit, but I also was a little bit underwhelmed on certain aspects of it. And now as I think about it, I can rationalize a lot of those things. But in the end, I really do stay with the same point. This is a good movie. It's a very good reintroduction to the franchise. It's what was needed. JJ succeeded in that. However, the unrealistic expectations I probably had and will continue to have, because I'm going to always have those unrealistic expectations because so much of the original trilogy is fantastic, especially Empire Strikes Back, that I'm going to hold it to that level of expectations and not just say, well, it was better than the prequel, so it met everything. I still think this is a fantastic movie. I still think people should go out. I am going to see it many more times in theaters. So anything that I say that is like a complaint is not really saying that it makes it a bad movie by any stretch of the imagination, but just says that it is far from a perfect movie. It is a flawed movie, but still very good. Now, the best thing, as I said in the other video, was Daisy Ridley. She was unbelievable in this movie, and if she had not been good, as her portrayal and everything had not been good, this movie would have suffered so much. It relied so much on Daisy Ridley being a good actor. Because, and here's a huge complaint on it, Rey's character and the way it is written is the biggest flaw of this movie at the same time. I love what Daisy Ridley did, and she makes so much believable, but Rey as a whole is just a flawed character because she's too perfect. That the whole movie, I'm like, well, she just fixed that so easily. She just did that so easily. She fights Kylo Ren. I know Kylo Ren is hurt. I know he's shot. I know everything. And it's all easy for Rey. And that bothered me while watching the movie. Not to say that Rey's a bad character. Not to say that Daisy Ridley is bad, because she is fantastic. To say that the problem with this movie is everything is too easy for her. You see emotion on her face. You see Daisy Ridley able to portray stress and dealing with a lot of things and going through it, but her character doesn't feel those things as often. Sure, we have some backstory of that she's been abandoned and a lot of those things, but as a whole, so it's just abandonment issues. Everything else comes easy. She's able to fix things. She's able to fly things without any issue. She's able to fight and do all the things. And I know there's an easy explanation just saying that it's the Force, and I understand that. And I think I can rationalize it and say, well, it's just because the Force is guiding her and trying to balance itself, as right now all there is really evil, especially with Luke's disappearance. I can get that. But so much of what makes Luke Skywalker and what makes our heroes in the original trilogy great, and so often our heroes in the prequels not as great, is that in the original trilogy, our heroes are always making mistakes. Just look at A New Hope. Luke Skywalker and Han Solo, the amount of times they make mistakes on the Death Star, and they get trapped, and they get caught, and they get, they have to keep chasing, and they get chased, and they get fire, and Leia has to take actually Luke's blaster and hit the stormtroopers because Luke can't hit anybody. They fly as they're getting out of it. The X-wing approach, so much danger and so much is going on, so much mistakes is happening, and it's just that in that mistake, one great moment can happen. And that's kind of the thing of A New Hope. Empire Strikes Back is just riddled with mistakes that our main characters make consistently, and they have to grow and understand this to go forward. Luke is the overarching thing is Luke is just a big mistakes left and right, but he's willing to fight and move forward on it. That is just missing in this. Rey, everything comes too easily. Even for Finn, everything comes too easily. I know he gets hit on his back a couple of times. He does get knocked out by Kylo Ren. So some things happen that it makes a little harder for Finn. And obviously we know Poe's ship explodes, but Poe just basically everything he flies, he's perfect. So there is a lot of that aspect of it. The stakes are just not as high. Even though we have a planet destroying 5 planets, we are not emotionally invested like we were when Alderaan was destroyed. And that is a problem with this film, that the stakes just don't feel as high, even though they should. We have Han Solo's son in Kylo Ren killing Han Solo. We have all these characters that should be in these great stressful situations, but the way it is portrayed, after the 5 planets are destroyed, and they're sitting down and they're planning, it just felt like, instead of this like, oh gosh, we are now going against this massive power, kind of that feeling when they were in A New Hope when they're going against the Death Star. They're like, okay, we have the plans, we have a shot, but you get just this feeling of, it's a 1 in a million shot. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. You get this feeling instead when they're going against this base, they're like, well, we've done this all before, so of course we can do this. It's not going to be any big deal. We'll just do this. We'll just do this. Yeah, we're great. We're awesome. I got that feeling instead of the, wow, this is going to be super hard. This is stressful. This is not going to be easy. We have to really, spend a lot of time thinking plans. People will really feel like could die for this. I know Han Solo does die. I know pilots do die, but there's not that feeling, that grasp that we got in A New Hope. And so when I say in the last video that I had problems with pacing, that's what I mean, is everything feels a little off. And I think the pacing issue that I had with this is so much is jam-packed into it. The stakes just don't feel as high as they should, and it all just feels kind of put together. That being said, the movie is still really good despite these problems. It's better than the prequels. It's actually, I say it's not as good as the original trilogy, but I can put it beside Return of the Jedi and not really feel, I can see a lot of the same sort of mistakes. I can see issues on both of them. I prefer Return of the Jedi, but that does not mean that it's that much better than this movie. So, this movie is just, it's got its flaws, and that's what I'm going to continue harping on. But there is some extreme strength in it. I give JJ and Co. all the credit on this. They had the idea of what happened to Luke Skywalker. JJ says that was the question Kathleen Kennedy posed to him and why he took the job. What happened to Luke Skywalker after Return of the Jedi? And they tell this story, and they do it without Luke Skywalker. And that takes extreme guts. To not have Luke in this movie all but a few minutes at the very end, and no dialogue. From the beginning, Luke has disappeared, and then he's there at the end barely. That took guts. That took tremendous guts, and I applaud them because I love it. I love that they decided to tell this story and build up these characters of especially Rey and moving forward. And I do still believe, you can go back to other videos and say, I still believe Rey is Luke's daughter. And I think there's a ton of evidence in the movie to support that, and I think we'll get more of that, obviously, in Episode 8. Obviously, they could go a different direction, but I'm still pretty convinced that Rey is Luke's daughter. And I think setting up his daughter, setting up Rey, and allowing to grow this character, even though, as I say, her character, things come too easily, but if it is true balance of the Force, and this is how I'm rationalizing it, if it is true the Force trying to balance itself, good and evil, then as the light side balances up, it's going to need Luke. And so getting Rey to a point where she can come to Luke. And so that's their willingness to do that and just not have Luke. And that final shot of just Rey holding the lightsaber towards Luke and Luke turning and just looking at it. That might be my favorite shot in this entire film. I loved it so much. That way it ended, just perfect. I've even had arguments with people who dislike the ending. I love it. It is the best way you could have ended this story. The way you could have done it is just set up. Sure, there are weird things. Why did just Rey go to see Luke? Why does not, as they're all searching for Luke, why doesn't Leia come? Why aren't all those things? And that those are good questions to ask. But the way they did it, I love how it looks. I love that ending, and I love what it's setting up. The thing that really, really shows in this film is the villains. And we knew there were a bunch of villains coming into this. And do all of them hit? No. Especially Captain Phasma. That was a huge disappointment. Maybe we'll get more in the novels coming out. Maybe we'll get more in the history. Maybe we'll get more in Episode 8. But in Force Awakens, Phasma is just a glorified extra. I mean, she has very little to do with this. She gets beaten very easily by and maybe thrown in a garbage chute in the end. It was kind of silly, and I was disappointed the way they used Phasma. I mean, you have Gwendolyn Christie. You have the potential of this strong female villain that could have been used, and it was just underutilized, especially considering how much JJ hyped her up. I was really disappointed with the use of that. That being said, the other villains, I think all of them hit for different ways. Hux is a very one-sided and one-note villain, but he does it very well. He is very menacing. He is very much that power-hungry leader we've seen in kind of the Empire before, and kind of rise up in this First Order, and his ability to rally soldiers around him, his ability to speak, you can tell, and his ability to just be that leader is there. He's not quite, say, like Tarkin was, that cold and calculated. There is a lot more to him, I think, in just he's a little flatter, and there needs to be more maybe fleshed out. But I really did enjoy Hux, and especially the scenes where Kylo Ren and Hux stand before Snoke, and they're both bantering back and forth, and they're both basically trying to get Snoke to love them more. And those were fantastic scenes, and I loved that kind of dynamic between Hux and Kylo Ren, where clearly they're rivals trying to move up in the First Order. And then obviously Kylo Ren. Called it. Totally called it. Han Solo and Princess Leia's son. Knew it. It kind of seemed pretty obvious, but there it is. The fact that he goes through so much and does so much in this movie is just incredible. He is one of the deepest characters, and if not the deepest character in this film. The emotion that he goes through, the fight that he has. He's not just like Vader in that, he was seduced to the dark side, and through all this. Sure, it sounds like Snoke did trick him a little bit, but also more just this power hungry and this feeling like wanting to be like his grandfather, Darth Vader, and there's just so much of that in him. But he's conflicted, and we see the emotion. We see when he's really angry, and he's just taking things out with his lightsaber on just panels in different rooms. We see his strength as he stops a blaster shot in midair and holds it there, and then just freezes people, and he can reach into people's minds and take information out. And we see this just raw power, but we see so much confliction. And when he does kill his father, spoiler alert, when he kills Han Solo, it is such an emotional and great scene that builds that character up, and I think sets forward what we're going to see in the future of the films, is that was the thing that he needed, that there was still light in him and he needed to purge it, and the way he could purge it was kill his father. He then loses the fight to Rey, which, despite all the rationalization in it, I still didn't like it. I would have liked, as the planet was kind of falling apart and breaking apart, I would have liked if Rey kind of held her own, was able to hold her own maybe a little bit, but Kylo Ren was the more powerful, and then the Earth, broke apart type of thing. I would have maybe separated them. Maybe he would have then tried with maybe some too much hubris and tried to jump it, and maybe she actually used the Force to push him down farther. That would have been something better, but the way she beats him, I don't really like. I can rationalize it. I can look at, well, the Force is balancing. I can see, well, Kylo Ren was hurt. He had been shot in the abdomen, in the stomach, with a blaster direct hit. So there are reasons why I can rationalize it. I don't necessarily like it because it just did not feel real. Even though I like the idea of Rey and Kylo Ren fighting, I wanted to hold that kind of her win off till later. But we'll just see how that progresses, and maybe I will like that more as the other movies come out. But right now, what I have, I didn't love that. The final villain, the one that was kept hidden, Supreme Leader Snoke. Andy Serkis's portrayal of what I am still convinced is Darth Plagueis. We'll see if I'm right or wrong on that. I'm still fairly convinced. But he reveals this humongous creature that we see is actually a hologram, so he probably isn't the 20-foot tall Voldemort-looking lizard thing. But he is fantastic in just the limited scenes that we get with him. As Serkis provides just incredible emotion through motion capture characters. Serkis in his just acting when he's himself is an incredible actor that doesn't get the credit always that he deserves, but when he is in the motion capture, and here it's no different. Just seeing the way he portrays this character and the evil that he brings out in his voice and the way he moves, just his facial features, just everything feels menacing about it, and I am so looking forward to Snoke. It sounds like they said when near the end he talks about telling Hux to bring Kylo Ren. It's time for him to finish his training, type of thing. And I'm excited to see if we get to see that sort of training. We get to see what that final step is. Is Kylo Ren ready to become potentially a Sith? If that's true, that would be amazing. And moving forward, those characters. As a whole, I love the villains of this movie. There are flaws in Phasma and Hux, but Kylo Ren and Snoke both really carry it, and I really thought that side was better actually fleshed out than sometimes the heroes were. A little bit of an interesting thing, but I mean, JJ definitely talked about how he really wanted to tell both heroes and villain stories, and I think he did a really good job of that as a whole. In the end, I could probably talk for 20 more minutes on this movie. There's just so much going on, and there's so much that we didn't get, that they're speculating and questioning, that the history will come out, and I think multiple viewings are going to help that kind of alleviate some of those things. As I said, I have complaints. There are things that I don't like about this movie, but as a whole, this movie works. As a whole, this is a great reintroduction. As a whole, I'm happy with this movie, and I'm excited to see where Star Wars is going to go. So if you watch this video and haven't watched it, I'm sorry that I spoiled it for you. Hopefully, if you're watching this video, you've seen it and are planning to go see it a second and a third and a fourth time. So let me know in the comments below what you think, what you thought about this movie. What are some of your speculations on Episode 8? Just let me know. And as always, like this video, subscribe to the channel. And I am Shawn Redman, aka the cheesily named Darth Shawn. And may the Force be with you. Always.